online as part of College Week Live's International Students Day. We are very excited to see you all here today. Thank you. My name is Hilary Lappin. I am the Associate Director of Graduate Admissions at the American University Washington College of Law. We are a law school located in Washington, D.C. in the United States. We are a relatively large law school by American standards, about 1,800 students, and we're part of a larger university, the American University. So today we're welcoming you as part of our webinar series, and this session is called the International Student's Perspective. So I am very happily joined today by two of our international students. So I'll have them introduce themselves in just a moment, but really what we want to do today is to give you some insight as to what it's like to be an international student in Washington, D.C. It's quite different to be an international student in different parts of the country, but at least you can get a perspective from a major metropolitan area in the United States. And it's a very informal session. I'll be asking some questions. I invite you to ask questions. There should be a chat box under your screen which will allow you to submit questions to our moderator. And then after we have a chance to talk a little bit about ourselves and our school and our experience, we'll take some of your questions as well. So thank you again for joining us, and I think we can start with the international student's perspective. And so to do that, I'd like to ask my friend Anna to introduce herself, if you could do that.
Of course. Hi, it's very nice for me to be here. My name is Ana Maria Zorrilla Noriega. I am from Mexico, Mexico City particularly. I studied law in one school in Mexico that is called ITAM, Instituto Tecnológico Autónomo de Mexico. That is a school that is specialized in the thing that I like the most, that is the government, the economic science, and the political science. And then I used to work there in the government, in diverse agencies. After that, I applied for a scholarship, and I came here with a Fulbright program to study the LLM in law and government. That, in my opinion, is a very intelligent and unique combination of courses. Because, well, in some minutes I'm going to explain you about why it's so special, but I have been very happy with that. Then I already finished the program on last December, and it was a great experience. So for me it's a pleasure to be here and to tell you why this can be a very good option for you.
Thank you so much, Anna. So now we will turn to our other panelist, very official sounding. Tareq, if you could please introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, my name is Tareq Al-Sohabani. I'm from Saudi Arabia, from Riyadh, the capital. I came here after graduating from my bachelor university. I got my bachelor degree from King Saud University, KSU. Afterwards, I continued practicing to get my law license in Saudi Arabia, but happily that was interrupted, and I applied to WSIL in American University, and I got accepted here, and here I am.
And what are you studying here at
I'm doing an LLM in International Legal Studies, specializing in business.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. So we specifically chose Anna and Tareq today because they've had a variety of experiences in the program, and both of them have been here for about 3 semesters. So they've been able to experience Washington, D.C. for a fairly long period of time. So I wanted to ask you at the outset, what were the kinds of things that you were considering when you first were thinking about coming to study in the U.S.? Obviously you were coming to study law, but I think the same kind of ideas would pertain to people who are studying in other fields as well. So what was something that you were looking for, that you were thinking about when you were first thinking to come here?
Well, may I begin?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
When I started my research about the LLM programs in United States, I found out that there are like hundreds of different programs in different states, in different schools in United States. But within those hundreds, I only found this one that was the combination that I was looking for, because I was looking not just a program on law, but also on policy affairs, international issues, and of course, my main specialization in Mexico, that is administrative law. So I could compare the US system with the Mexican system and see how the people in United States have been able to solve the same problems that we have in our government, and to compare those solutions with the ones that in Mexico we have tried to reach. So, well, when I found out that there was this program and I learned the courses and how it was integrated, I decided just, now I think that it was a little dangerous, but I just applied to a program on law and government at American University. Fortunately, I got accepted, and then I obtained this Fulbright scholarship and I was able to come. And I am sure that it was a great decision. And I really think this is a unique program. The director of the program is a very, very intelligent professor that currently he's a senator in Maryland. He is brilliant, and he gave me classes, and I just reaffirmed my decision. So I wanted to tell you that as an international student, sometimes, of course, you can come and study international law. I know that that is great, but even you cannot do it, and you can take advantage of this program on law and government, because you can compare the system in your own country with the system in the United States, and that can be pretty useful and different from what other international students usually do here in the United States.
That's some good advice too. I think when you're researching the institutions, there's hundreds and hundreds of schools that probably have something related to your field, but it's all about picking the program that works the best for you.
Exactly.
Anna had a very specific area that she wanted to focus in, and so rather than choosing a school simply for the name alone, she looked specifically at the courses and the curriculum and the kinds of things she could study. So that, I think that's good advice.
That's what made me
anyone.
choose this school, because of the variety of the curriculum and the variety of specializations that you can choose. You got hundreds of options. Like you can get 2 specializations in 2 different fields. You can. It's diverse. The school is diverse.
In addition, I wanted just to add something. This school is very well regarded for the huge and the important perspective of human rights that it gives to all the courses and all the things you can study here. So even if you are not specializing in human rights, you can have this perspective that, in my opinion, can be very useful also. So that's also very good.
Thank you very much. I think that gave a really good perspective of how you looked at the search, because, as you said, there are a lot of choices available.
Maybe you forgot to mention the location of the school. Being in Washington, D.C. is...
So were you thinking about that when you were choosing schools? Did you look at the cities that you were going to?
I looked at 3 things. The ranking, the program ranking, the location of the school, and the variety of the curriculum. And I got all of them in this school. I looked at other schools in Washington, D.C. They did not have that variety in their courses. They didn't. You can specialize in any field of law.
Yeah. So our school in particular has, I guess, we're known for certain fields: international law, intellectual property, law and government, administrative law. But there is a real variety. We are a larger law school. We have a lot of courses. But every law school has a slightly different feel to it. And every school in the United States, some may be very diverse. We have in our program students from over 50 countries. But other schools may have a larger population of Chinese students or students from Saudi Arabia. So it depends on what you're looking for to see which school might be the best fit for you. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit, since Tareq mentioned Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is a fairly international city. Can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the advantages of choosing Washington, D.C. over another location, or how it's kind of fit with you?
Like at the beginning, I wasn't completely comfortable with Washington D.C. Everything was fast. Like the city is so compact. Everything is next to each other. But after a while, you get a feel to it. You get to know how to move. In the orientation, I remember Greg and the others. They helped us learn our way in the school. They gave us all these flyers, how to get to the metro, which stop to go to, and like we got the we got there. Somehow we managed to be
So
Washingtonians.
It didn't take too long,
It
right?
didn't. It took almost 3 weeks, 4 weeks maximum.
That's not that bad.
That's not that bad.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But also, like, I'd like to say that the LLMs, the international students in this school, are like a big family. Everyone helps each other. Like, we're all here to do the same thing. We're all foreigners in this country, so we help each other. We face the same problems. We try to find solutions. If you have a problem, you ask someone else, and they will help you.
Yeah.
This is why I love this school.
That's good. I mean, I think that's really.
I think she agrees with me.
She's nodding her head, so she must agree.
Definitely.
But I think that's really true
And-
about becoming a Washingtonian. I mean, you have, it's not a city like New York City, but it's still a major city, and so it takes some time to get used to the different rhythm, right?
Exactly. Yeah, but
And it's like the international city by excellence. It's every major corporation or international organization has an office here. So, for example, we have the opportunity to be more than 1 year here. For example, in the summer, I made an internship at the Mexican embassy, and I was able not only to work there, but also to get to know the amazing work that many non-governmental organizations do regarding the same topics that we were working on in the embassy. So that only happens in Washington D.C. Like this huge combination of organizations and corporations and government.
I think a lot of our students take advantage of that in particular by doing internships in the Organization of American States. We have the World Bank, the Inter-American Development Bank is here, the National Committee of the Red Cross, the International Committee of the Red Cross. Everything is
Exactly.
Even if you're not looking for an internship, you get the chance to network, to expand your network, to meet new people, to meet new people in the field that you're interested in. Even if you're planning to finish the LLM and go back home, you still get the chance to meet other people that share the same interests as you.
Yeah. So have you been able to go to a lot of events, either here at the law school? I know we have a lot of conferences here, but then outside too, there's always speeches happening or events going on. Have you been able to take advantage of some of those things?
For me, I'm trying to catch up, but there are too many events to attend all of them.
Yeah.
I'm trying to focus on the ones that I'm interested in.
Yes.
But like there's something happening twice, 3 times a week,
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's impossible to go to.
You can't go to class.
Yes,
And
exactly.
every event. that
Because
you
even
want to go
here
to.
in the school, I haven't been able to go to everything.
Yeah.
It's difficult. But yes, of course, there are a lot of opportunities, and
Yeah.
you can choose within a huge
Whatever.
variety of things.
Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about something that would probably be relevant to every international student coming to the U.S., and that's a little bit about the U.S. classroom experience. I mean, you both come from very different educational backgrounds. The teaching system in all of our different countries are all slightly different. So what was one thing when you first stepped into a U.S. classroom that really surprised you, either good or bad? It doesn't have to be
For me,
one or the other.
it was the flexibility of the professors, the easiness that everything goes. Some students bring food to the class and they eat and with no problems. Like you can walk out, you can walk in, and no one cares because like professors, like they treat you like adults. Like you sit down, you discuss things with them. Most of classes are discussions. They don't lecture you. They don't give you a lecture and you just sit there and listen and take notes. Like it's a discussion.
Yes.
I think it's different.
Yes, with the Mexican system is not so different, I think, than in your case. But for me, and I think for all the Latin America classmates that I have talked about this with them, the huge and main difference is the writing, the writing way of doing papers and research, and because here in the United States they are very concrete, and they, for example, they are short, and they start, for example, with the conclusion, then they develop the main arguments,
Right.
and then they repeat the same conclusion at the beginning, you know? And for example, in Mexico, we have this introduction that is just putting
Yeah.
some elements of the main conclusion, but after many different arguments, you can conclude something.
Yeah.
You know, it's very different. The good thing is that all the international students, I think we have a difference, not common law, but other systems. We have to take one course that is called legal research and writing, and that is very useful. You have, yes.
The small section.
Yes, we put it together, exactly. And that is very important because very important techniques are taught.
Right.
And in addition to that, we have these small groups that are like workshops in which we can like rehearse. For example, a legal memo that you should do to a client, or for example, a business letter for your boss, and that is very, very useful, and that is in the first semester here. So that can help with this difference.
But the thing is, like, when I first came here, my writing skills were bad. Like I confess, they were really bad. But I threw myself into the small sections with her, with the other writing requirements. And the school, the professors, the small section instructors, they helped a lot. Like at the end of my first semester, I was able to do a paper, a legal paper, perfectly, and cite and do everything. So you get us there.
Especially our small section professor, that is he's called Michael Stone. He is like one of the best professors I have ever had in my life. He's really.
I agree.
And
he was fun. He was dynamic. No, we were like eight,
8 to 10.
No, 8. Yes, I think 8.
Yeah. So that's probably a difference too. Most of our I mean, I think the biggest class we have here might be 80 people, maybe. But most of the classes are 20, 30, and then we have these
seminars,
small seminars, these workshops that are maybe 8 to 10 students.
Yes, sure.
So I think that's thinking, of all the different international students who come here. I think that's quite different for other students.
Even if you're not comfortable speaking with the professor in a big class, when you get to those small sections, the small seminars, you have to talk. You're only 10 in a room. Like at some point, you're bound to talk with the professor and discuss things with him.
Sure.
Have you found that it's easy to talk with professors? Because I know every country is slightly different of how you approach
professors. At the beginning,
some are
you
formal.
might be intimidated by the language difference because you're in a new school, but after a while, you get used to it. You see everyone talking, everyone is being relaxed.
There you go. If everyone else is doing it,
you might as well do it.
Yes, and it's a very relaxed environment and a very open school. For example, I took other course that is called Comparative Constitutional Law. That it was like a seminar of 10 people with a professor. The professor is like the former director of the American Law Schools Association. This Carl Monk is his name. And we were from all over the world. Like it was like France, Egypt, Israel, Spain, Chile, Colombia, Mexico, United States, Canada. It was great. And all the classes were about, we have to read like some chapter of the book, and we have to talk about what happens in our own country, in our own constitutional systems, how our own courts have decided particular cases. And it was so illustrative to hear about so many different of seeing and solving the same problems.
That's really nice to hear, because when I talk to students, I tell them how much we as a law school value our international students in the classroom, because our international students here, and it's different at other schools, but here they're mixed in with the American students in all the classes. So I always tell them how much we value the international perspective. So it's nice to hear that actually in classes, when the subject is a comparative law topic, all of the students' inputs, they're really valued as part of the learning experience.
Even in any international law, anything that relates to trade, international business, anything with an international aspect, the professors are always interested in international students. They ask us about our countries, about
That's
experience.
great.
Very good.
Yeah. That's great.
Also in non-government was like that.
Right, because a lot of the classes that have more of a U.S. law focus, it's mostly U.S. students in the U.S. law classes. So sometimes as an international student you could be only one or maybe two. So did you ever feel like you were alone
not alone.
Okay.
Never alone.
Yeah, that's good.
Yes, it was great.
I think I think this kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier, Tareq, about how the LLM program is really like a family. You're all in the same situation. You're from the international students who are in a new city for the first time, in a new legal system, new education system. But can you tell me a little bit more about maybe like some of, we can step away from the classroom and we can go to maybe more of the fun aspects of being an international student in the U.S.
Especially in DC, especially in Washington DC, there's events going on every weekend, every Thursday, every Friday.
Free events, a lot
Free
of
events,
Oh,
a lot of
free.
free events.
Yeah.
So having this big group of students, international students that want to do things because they have this limited time in the U.S. in DC, we're always going out. We're always trying to invest our time by like studying and having fun at the same time.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, I know we our school in particular has a student board, and so Tareq was the president of the student board.
Mhm.
So we have one for the different programs. Law and Government has one, and International Legal Studies. But as part of that, they do plan social events. I think they go to sporting events like hockey.
Sporting events.
The Law and Government, so a hockey game. They have an end of the year party. There's we bring in different speakers too, different career panels, things
They
like
do
that.
international events, sometimes potlucks. Like
Oh yeah.
they help you
We have
get
International
to know
Student
the,
Thanksgiving,
exactly,
right?
Exactly. They did it last year.
The Friendsgiving.
Yeah. The
Friendsgiving.
Friendsgiving.
The
That's
Friendsgiving. Little trips to Annapolis, to
But the most
New
important
York.
thing they do,
New York.
both board, is at your first semester when you get here, you don't know half of the students. They try to get you all together. Like by the end of your second or first week, you almost know 90% of your new international students,
That's
and
good.
that's matter. That helps.
Yeah. And it's a good sized program. I think now this year we have about 180 LLM students across the program. So it's not thousands of students, but it's still a big group of students
But
to get
if
to
you look
know.
at the diversity and the countries they come from,
Yes.
Yeah.
it's better than meeting 1,000 from the same country because
That's
as an
true.
international as an international student, you want to meet people from other countries, from other legal systems,
Sure.
because you're not only here to study law, because
No.
you can do that in your country or in any other country.
Mhm.
For me, my main concern was to meet other people from other countries, in addition to study law.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing we talk about a lot of times with students and with our alumni is how your time in the U.S. is your time to build your network, right? So that your colleagues now in class will be your colleagues in the legal profession in the future. So I'm sure both of you have probably met people in your program now that you will most likely continue to be in contact with.
Definitely.
A lot of them, many
Definitely.
countries, and like
All
most of
over.
them, like a lot of them went back home. Some of them are trying to get their bar exam in the
And stay
US
here.
and stay
Uh-huh.
here, but almost 100.
Mm-hmm.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to encourage all of our participants as well, anyone who's online, to submit any questions. I'm going to ask Anna and Tareq a couple more questions about their life here in DC, but if you have questions, we'd love to hear from them as well. As I said, we are talking specifically about the law school and law courses and their experience coming as foreign lawyers, but I think the international student perspective is pretty relevant to any international student coming to the United States. So I wanted to ask you, kind of going backwards in time to when you were first researching the programs and trying to decide where to apply, what do you think was the hardest part of researching and applying for the programs? What was it? It can be something really big or really small.
For me, honestly, I was lost at the beginning. I had to ask some students that are in the U.S. what cities do you prefer? Do you want to live in the downtown? Do you want to live outside the city? What programs? Where do I find the ranking of the school? Because for me, I haven't lived in the U.S. at all, so I
Right.
had no idea how this thing works, how to get the ranking, how to look at the specializations, how to
Yeah.
look at the courses that you provide, and it took me some time to figure things out, but after a while,
Yeah.
I got there.
That's great advice
Yeah.
though for anyone is if you
Mhm.
know other students who
Mhm.
have studied abroad or have either for a short period of time or have lived in the U.S.
Mm.
really use
Yeah.
them, ask them questions, see what their
But
perspective is.
it always gets back to you. You're the one who gets to decide which school, so don't take the word for it. Do your research also,
Yeah,
Mhm.
and talk to us.
and talk to you.
I
Mhm.
literally get paid to answer questions from
Mhm.
students.
And she answered in the day you write to her. I
Well,
remember that I
don't
was
make
like,
any promises I can't keep.
No, but she is very fast and she is very effective because I remember I wrote to you like many emails because
We talked for a long time.
of
before
course
I
I
came.
came with my husband and for us the main issue or problem was like the timing because we already were accepted but we hadn't the scholarships yet. So we were like 1 month before coming or not coming, and we didn't know if we were going to come
I almost
because
had the
you
same
know
thing.
Really?
like
I started
the
without a
planning.
scholarship, and then I got the scholarship.
And I was
Yeah.
like, Hilary, when do I have to tell you? And I was a little worried because of that, because the scholarships were like the last thing in the process for
That's-
both of us.
I would say probably that's the most stressful part
Mhm.
for any
Definitely.
student is
Definitely.
the funding
Yes.
and figuring out how to apply for scholarships and then waiting for scholarship decisions. So I know, I mean, a lot of schools offer scholarships to international students. We
Mhm.
offer several
Yeah.
partial and full scholarships,
Mhm.
but if you're going through your home government or
Mhm.
through Ministry of Education
Mhm.
or an organization like Fulbright, it's just so much waiting.
Mhm.
There's so much waiting for you. So I know it can be frustrating
Mhm.
at times. Um, what about the English exams? Are they okay?
The English exam.
Yes.
Yeah,
okay.
the TOEFL or the IELTS.
I
I
got
get a-
nervous, but
I get a lot of questions
Mm.
Yes.
about that. I think it makes people really anxious to think about it, but then their scores are fine.
Yes.
It's not that bad.
For me, I had my exam before applying, so
Mhm.
I got the results. Then I applied.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
It was
We
one
got
of
the
the.
same.
I had like multiple things I decided to do before applying. One of them was trying to see how much I get in the TOEFL,
Yeah.
and I was under the limit, so I had to take the legal English for lawyers
Mhm.
course.
Yeah.
Here I am.
That's good. That's good advice though. Is some things
Like-
take a really long time, like studying for the
Exactly.
English exam and taking the English exam. So getting it out of the way early.
Yeah, and you have to be comfortable with your decision when you decide to study abroad. You don't just go and study and you're not comfortable with it.
Mhm.
Like you have to understand that it's an experience. It's a good experience, but
Yeah.
you have to be ready for it.
You have to be a little adventurous,
Adventure.
right?
I'm patient.
Both adventurous and patient at the same time.
But the school staff, the students, they're all friendly here.
Mhm.
That's
They
good.
help. Everything helps.
And this
Good.
legal English for lawyers is a course that you can or cannot take. It's
Mhm.
optional, and it can be very useful because sometimes you know English, but you are not sure about like legal terms and.
Right, right. And I think that's one thing that maybe not everyone realizes is that legal English is completely different from spoken or written
Different.
plain
Exactly.
English.
The TOEFL
Um,
English.
and it's the same too for a lot of different
Yeah.
degrees. I mean, I think the way you speak if you're taking a course in political science is different
Mhm.
than if you were taking economics or if you're taking
Accounting.
or the sciences.
Sure.
And the
And
way you
so-
handwrite if you're a doctor.
Yeah.
That's another chapter.
That's another chapter.
We don't handwrite anything, do we?
No,
Even
we
your
don't.
exams now.
Yeah.
How have you taken your exams here at the law school? Have they all been exams, or have you done papers, or what are the setup?
I almost did everything. We have two different ways of exams. You either do them in class or you take them home. We call them take-home exam.
Mhm.
And you have open book and closed book. If it's a
Mhm.
closed book, you're not allowed to get any outside materials. If it's an open book, you get access to anything you want. And in class, sometimes you get multiple choice. It's kind of thrown. So all the answers are multiple choice, 50 or 55 of them, sometimes 100. It takes some time.
Yeah.
And for other courses, you can choose,
paper.
or exactly, they tell you, or you can choose to make a paper, to do a paper.
Exactly.
So that can be very good also because, for example, in this comparative constitutional law, I made one about the way in which South Africa, Germany, United States, and Mexico have developed and protected the social rights in their constitutions. And now I was able, back in Mexico, I wrote like a little text in Spanish, and I already published it
Oh,
in
you
Mexico.
did?
Yes.
Oh,
It is.
congratulations.
Okay, it's a summary of the paper, but it's good
Yeah.
because it can be useful because I think sometimes exams you leave them there and
Right, you memorize everything.
exactly. And doing a paper maybe in that moment takes more time than the exam, but you after that can, well, if you can publish all your paper, that would be great. But if not, you can do a small text in your country and you can try to publish it, and that, of course, adds to your curriculum.
Yeah.
Even when doing a paper, you get to study the course, the readings and the materials that you have to do for the class, and also you do your own research on the topic of the paper. So you have two classes inside one.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Was this different from what you had done in your undergraduate? Did you do more? Did you have more exams?
Of course.
It was all exams.
All exams.
Yeah.
All oral exams it was in Mexico.
Oh, really?
Oral.
Yeah, so that's a change, having to switch to
Yes.
doing.
For me, they were all handwritten exams.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm bad at handwriting.
You prefer the computer.
Yeah.
So that's different from American undergraduate students because often most of our, your first year courses and things you do as an undergraduate may be exams, but then once you get to be your third and fourth year, you're doing mostly papers.
Exactly.
So it's not as much of a transition, I think, to graduate school. So many people are already used to writing those.
Sure, and they give you, in most of the classes, correct me if I'm wrong, they give you freedom to choose the topic to write in your paper. That's very good because if you can choose, you can do something that is good for you or for your career. For example, in Mexico, I will be fast in this one. In Mexico, I used to work in a governmental agency in charge of reviewing all the regulation of the government. And here in the United States, they have a very similar agency that does exactly the same function. And in this course that is called the Washington Lawyer Seminar, I was able to do a paper about this U.S. agency, and I could compare it with the Mexico system.
It's perfect.
That are just the same agency, but in the two countries, so they function differently because they are in different governments, but they want to do the same. So it's very interesting. And if professors give you the freedom to choose, you can do something that is good for your own career.
Well, and I will say, whenever the students are able to choose their own topics and take courses they want to take, they often get better grades.
Sure.
So than the compulsory subjects that sometimes if you don't want to be in a class on contracts, you might not do as much work.
And it's different when you do research about a topic you want to write about than doing an exam about a book that you didn't decide or you didn't choose what the topics in the books are. You have to study them.
Very different. And since they are very open and respectful in the school about you being an international student, for example, in other course that I took with the director of our program, that it was legislative processes and political rhetoric, it was a very U.S. course.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Very domestic course.
Yes.
But in my paper, I could do Mexico-U.S. relations in the U.S. Congress.
Okay.
So it was very interesting to know what are the current debates about Mexico in the U.S. Congress, and the professor, of course, he's very open and he gives you the opportunity to write about the thing that you.
I hear that a lot about our faculty. Is they're very open to the ideas that students bring. I mean, I think they'll steer you in the right direction.
They're more flexible with international students. Some of the professor will give you an extra hour on some exams because you're an international student. You don't have English is not your first language.
Yeah.
And
I know
they help us
that's
a
not
lot.
the policy at every
That's
school.
not the policy in every school, but some of the professors give you that extra hour, and it helps sometimes.
Yeah, it does take a lot longer to read in a second language and write and think through how to do everything. So we have a couple questions, and so I'm happy to, maybe I can just pose those to you, and you can answer some of the questions for students. So one is about the TOEFL how you prepared for taking the exam, both studying-wise and probably mentally getting ready for it.
I was at the beginning. I wanted to take a course, and I think it was a 3 weeks course. But then I did some research online, and I bought the Kaplan book, and I forgot the other book, the two TOEFL preparations.
TOEFL test prep.
And they have the exams, and they're harder than the TOEFL exams.
Really?
They're actually harder than the TOEFL exams.
That's good preparation then.
They have
and
like
you got
6
to
of
the
them.
TOEFL and you're like, this is easy.
This is easy. I did this. I did harder than this. So I did them over a month, I think, while working. And when I got to the TOEFL exam, I was familiar with all the questions, all the way, not the actual question, but the way you have to answer, the way the questions are done, what to do, how much time you have. It wasn't something strange for me, so I just practiced my English doing the exam.
That's good. That's
For
a
me,
good advice.
to be honest, for me it was very difficult the speaking section of the TOEFL because sometimes they ask you things that you usually don't know the answer even in your own language. You know, for example, my husband, he's a unique child. He does not have siblings, and the question in the speaking part for him was like, what is the ideal brother for you? And he was like, maybe he's caring and he's he really don't know. He really doesn't know. Sorry. So he was like, but I don't know. And for example, sometimes you get this. You try to speak and speak and speak, and you start to give some ideas that are not answering the question, and they lower points because of that.
Yeah. So you have to slow down.
Even in your own language, you have to be like very clear. What would I answer here?
Yeah.
Something similar happened to me because the topics of the exam are like nothing that you would experience in this school. They were about the way they invented dyes in Florence and how they happen. And why would I be interested in that? And you have to use specific terms they used in the
biology or physics or something like that.
But I think those test prep books are really helpful in kind of helping you to look at a question and figure out how to answer it, even if you don't know exactly.
Even if you don't know what the meaning of the word in the sentence is, you can figure it out. After a while, if you see many words that you don't understand, after a while you get how to understand them and how to.
So the advice that you got about the TOEFL today is to practice.
Definitely.
And the more you practice, then I think it helps on both. One, you know how the test is structured, you know how to answer the questions, but then also you probably are not as scared when you go in. You know what to expect.
And if you're not sure about one answer in the moment of answering, like guess the answer and follow with the. There are so many. Keep going. Exactly. There are so many questions that, of course, one doesn't matter. You can keep going.
Don't worry about it.
It's great. You're gonna be.
If you're not nervous when you take it, I think you have a good chance at getting a good grade. Because if you're nervous, you won't be able to speak. You won't be able to write. It's an English exam.
You have to speak.
You have to speak. You have to write. You have to read fast and find the answers.
And from an admissions perspective, we don't use the TOEFL to punish our international students. We use it to make sure that you'll be successful in your classes. Because the one thing we would hate more than anything is to bring someone here who does not have the English to follow along in the classroom discussion, to be able to keep up with the readings. Because it can be really difficult for a student. I mean, it's difficult if you have strong English learning in a different country, and legal English is completely different, right?
Yes.
So I know most admissions officers use the TOEFL to make sure that the student will be successful in the classroom. We want happy students.
Even if you get low grades in the TOEFL, that does not mean that you don't understand English. You might be unlucky with the questions that you got. You can do it again and.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's true.
Definitely.
Let's see. We have another question. It's a bit more for me, I think. It's a little specific about the law school, but it's asked. Someone has asked if we accept all foreign law degrees and how they're evaluated. So we accept students who have a first degree in law. It's called something different in a lot of different countries. Often it's called the LLB, the Bachelor of Laws. It, basically, the criteria is that you should be eligible to practice law in your home country. You don't have to be actively practicing law. If there's a bar exam in your country, you don't have to have passed the bar exam. Or if there's a apprenticeship program, you don't have to have completed the apprenticeship program. But your degree should allow you to practice law if you would like to practice law. We have two ways that students apply. Students can apply through LSAC, which is the United States main law school application system. A lot of students like submitting their documents through LSAC. You only submit it one time, and then LSAC sends it out to all the schools you're applying to, and they will do an evaluation of your law degree for us. So they will look at your country's grading system and where you would rank, if you're average grades, above average grades, superior grades, and they'll do that for us.
It's an easy way to apply.
It's an easy way to apply. The one drawback with LSAC is that it can be expensive because they charge you to set up your account, they charge you to apply, they charge you to have your transcripts evaluated.
There's a recommendation. I think they charge you for everything.
They charge you for a lot.
If you want to save time and effort, it's the easy way.
Especially if you're from a country where it's quite difficult to get official copies of transcripts, or if you have professors who are not willing to write more than one letter of recommendation.
You only have to send one to
you only
LSAC,
have to send one.
and they will send it to all the law schools you
Yeah.
apply for.
The other way is directly through a law school. So most law schools will accept applications directly. A few only accept through LSAC. We accept them directly, and for those schools, for those applicants, you don't have to have a formal evaluation of your transcripts. We will do that evaluation. We're trained to look at international transcripts and look at your system and see where you would fall amongst other classmates of yours. And so that's a much easier, cheaper option for some people.
Yes.
But we accept either one. Some students will also use WES, W-E-S, which is another credential evaluation service. We accept that, but not all schools do. So if you are applying to schools, especially law schools, you should check on the application page, the admissions page, as to what they will and won't accept, because you would hate to go through all the trouble of evaluating your transcripts a certain way and then realize that the school you're applying to wants it a different way. So so that's my advice to you. And if you are unsure, email the admissions office and ask them. As I mentioned before, it's our job to answer these kind of questions. We try and put as much as possible on the website, but we do understand that every student's situation is slightly different. And so there may be a question that is not going to be answered on the website, and that's why there are admissions officers at every school in the U.S.
Yeah, you can just email them. Don't ask anyone who has experience. Just email them and they will answer you as soon as possible.
Well, so I always tell students to talk to us instead of their friends.
Yeah.
But did you ever find, I think some advice you want from friends. Like friends who've lived here. You want to know where to live, where to go, what to do.
Not how to apply.
Not how to, not real stuff.
Not real stuff. Yeah, but you should ask friends where to live, how much money you expect to spend, how to move in the city. You need to research that. You don't want to come here and end up spending all your money on transportation, then find out a couple of months ahead after that you could have taken the bus and saved like hundreds of dollars. You don't want to do that.
So those are good things to ask your friends who've lived here.
Yeah, or even if you don't have friends in the city you live in or you move to, just ask the international students with you. They probably live in the same area and they know how to get there to school in a cheap way.
I think one of the nice things about our programs, we have students like you both who are here for 3 semesters or longer. We have students we admit students in both the fall semester and the spring semester. So there's always a new batch of students coming in, and there's always continuing. So you always have someone who you can ask for advice or for help on something. So I think that's good.
Definitely.
And then this is an admission admissions perspective, not an international student perspective at all. But from an admissions perspective, most admissions officers who deal with international students have chosen to deal with international students. We like working with an international student population. We enjoy learning about other cultures. We enjoy meeting new people. We are here because we want to be here. I don't think anyone is in the admissions field because they, just it's something to do. It's a way to make money. It's not a big money maker. So most people who choose to do this really do enjoy working with the students. So I would encourage you to take advantage of the admissions offices. If they have online events like these, if they have online chat hours, or we do a series that are called the Chats with the Directors. And so we have directors of the Human Rights Program, the International Law Program, Environmental Law, Advocacy, Intellectual Property. We do chats with the directors. That gives you access from anywhere in the world to speak directly with faculty members. So for our school or for any other school, look at their admissions events, look at their events online, see if they have online events that you can attend while you're still overseas.
But I would like to say that mostly everyone in the U.S. will answer their emails as soon as possible. Like maybe in your countries or my country, you would send an email, they won't answer, and you have to call them and keep calling until they answer. Here you don't have to. You just send an email and they would respond to you as soon as possible. And it's faster, and you don't have to be on phone and hold. You just shoot the email and wait for the response.
Another important difference with.
And you can send it at midnight. You don't care. It's not like a phone call.
We like that too. Right, because then you don't have to, based on your time zone, you don't have to wait around to call Washington, D.C. so that you can talk to me directly. We have, our staff is available to you by email pretty much any time of the day or night. So it's a great.
Yeah, I've walked in their offices a couple of times. They're always looking at emails, so I just shoot them emails.
That is the easiest way. So maybe we're starting to get towards the end of our program, and I feel like we've covered a lot of different things about being an international student. We talked about the social aspect and researching programs and the classrooms and the faculty. But what's one thing that you could tell a friend of yours or a classmate, one piece of advice for them if they're coming to the U.S. to study?
One piece of advice.
Good advice. No, I'm just
I would.
There's no bad advice.
I would tell you, especially to think about what you like the most about your law degree or law career in your own country, and try to find a school. Of course, this is a great option, but these are not your topics. Decide, but decide on that basis, on the basis of the specialization you want to earn. Because, as Hilary was saying like some minutes ago, that will give you a true advantage and a true enrichment of your career. If you come here to specialize in the thing you like the most and you can use in your own country. Not just a general LLM, like to repeat things you have already seen, or to study things that truly you are not so interested, I think that's a very important advice. To define the school that you like.
I think that's good advice.
I would say make friends that share your interests, the same specialization or specialization that you're interested in, and that would help you because, as you said earlier, you'll all be in the same line of work eventually.
Right.
And you would want some international lawyers that would help you if it was an international field or issue. And you will find a lot of them in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
You'll find a lot of people that share the same interested in international law, international.
I think so. We have a listserv of our alumni in the international law program, and any alum can write into the listserv and post it to the group. And you always see notices of things like a lawyer in Egypt needs someone who has a specialization in contract law in Europe because they're dealing with some issue, and they need to partner with a firm in Europe. And so you constantly see things like
I
that.
forgot to mention the career development.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
You get
that's right.
that's an interesting thing. I don't know if other schools in BC have it. I haven't seen. I have friends in other law schools. I haven't seen something as good as this because you get job opportunities in email for international students mostly every week. Every week or every month.
Every week.
Every week.
Every week.
And they're diverse. They're in all fields of law.
All of them.
Internships, jobs, externships. You get everything. I mean, after a while, you even if you're not looking for a job, you'll find something interesting that would you just apply for. You cannot not to.
Yeah.
For example, I have just one last example. I have a very close friend from the program, I think in non-government, but she's doing now the human rights. She's from Costa Rica. She started to work with UNICEF, like in a very particular issue about some kids with certain disease. And now she has been also hired as an intern by the Pan American Health Organization that depends of the World Health Organization. And she's so happy, but she has extended her life here like for 2 semesters more because she keeps finding things that interest her, and she has been extended her network with many other persons from all over the world that are interested just in the same specialization than her. But our 2 advisors are connected within each other because, of course, if you choose the right specialization for you, you will find here the persons that are interested in the same, and you will connect and build a network for the
I would
rest
like
of
to
your
add
life.
to that one of our friends found an internship through the career development in The Hague, and she's there now. She came here just doing her LLM, and she's in the Netherlands now. So.
That's fantastic.
Indeed.
Yeah. And so what Anna and Tareq are talking about as well is here at our law school we have a dedicated career advisor for international students. There's separate career advisors for American students, but specifically we have, she actually did her LLM here at the law school as well. She was an international student herself a while ago.
She's from Europe, right?
Yes, yes, exactly. She gets you, exactly. So I think that's important when you're looking at schools too. What are you thinking about for your career in the long term? What kind of help do you need going forward? You know, I think our career advisor Melania does things like reviewing your resume and CV and doing mock interviews, but then also helping you to think about what you want to do.
Even if you're not looking for a job or an internship or anything, she will help you improve your resume, give you an interview, a mock interview. She will help you get into like improve yourself.
Yeah. So I think resources like that are important for international students. So we have someone dedicated for international students for their careers. We have an English tutor dedicated to helping students with their writing assignments, not to write them for them, but to help them to think through how they should structure it. We have professional development series for international students. So how do you network in Washington, D.C.? It's a completely different way to make connections probably in your home country than it is in Washington, D.C. It's very easy.
You
just go and introduce yourself. It's fantastic.
People are interested all the time. Just go and just tell them your name.
Well, think about it too. Back home, you are one Saudi law student among thousands of Saudi law students. Here, you're special.
Definitely.
You're an international student in Washington.
Even if you find someone that share your nationality, they cannot share your same interest. Like they're not all going to be interested in business and IT and have the same experience and want to work in the same field. You're unique in your own way.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that will kind of be a nice way for us to end the session. I wanted to thank all of you for joining us. Thank you especially to Anna and Tareq. Thank you for sharing your perspective. I know as an American, when I went to study overseas, it would have been really helpful to hear from some people was like to study in those countries. I think I probably would have had an easier transition than I did.
A smoother.
Yeah, a smoother transition. But we really appreciate you taking the time to think about how you first moved here and how you started your program and now where you are today. So thank you very much, both of you. And thank you to everyone online. I'd like to remind you that I will be online with my colleague Greg Rafal for the rest of the day. So if you have specific questions about studying law in the U.S. or applying to our law school, we'll be online. We're happy to talk about scholarships, application, TOEFL, specialization areas. We can talk about both the master's degree program as well as the JD, which is the Juris Doctor here in the United States. So please visit our page and chat with us a little later today. And thank you all for joining us.